Travis Wayne Goodsell. It's the heat of the daytime. In this, it's going to be war battle strategy. So if that bores you or if it's over your head, feel free to skip this video. But if you're concerned about what will happen to the church during all this, you might want to pay attention. If you know nothing of President Vladimir Putin, he has a theme song which is actually pretty catchy, but he's KGB trained, and so he knows all different war tactics. He walks almost like he's limping. That's because of his KGB training. He's a very patient person. He makes sure to strategize, plan out, and slowly implement his plans over time. And like in chess, he thinks several moves ahead and responses to each and every single move. And so he knows the art of war. Sun Tzu. We are told by our government that any day now war could break out, that he is likely to do what he did for Crimea and stage a red flag operation to justify starting the war. That his bombers are doing test runs in Belarus, and his army is at 70% capacity for wartime. I went over Bloomberg's map. And you can see on the map, on Bloomberg's map, on the other video I had, whether it goes in this one or not, it doesn't matter. He's got temporary sites around Belarus, north of Ukraine, east of Poland, south of Lithuania. He also has troops along the Russian-Ukraine border, all around. He's got it surrounded, as well as Crimea, in a surrounded position in Crimea. And the United States is spread out along with NATO troops, UK, Canada, Germany troops, from Bulgaria, Romania, Poland, Germany, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. And last I heard, Biden was sending even more troops out. Some things you must know and understand before war begins. This is what Putin has been doing in preparation for this moment. Remember, we had a certain president who ripped up our nuke agreement with Iran? Yeah, well, Iran has now been making weapons-grade plutonium nukes for Russia. since the agreement's been destroyed. So they've had, some years now to be working on that. Putin has no problem using nukes or chemical weapons. There have been many instances in other countries where Putin has sent assassins to murder people with chemical warfare. Even his political opponent, if you remember him, he's still locked up in Russia, if he's not dead yet, who was poisoned in his water bottle at his hotel out of Russia. And then there was an incident in the UK where he poisoned a father and daughter. And so yeah, he has no problems with nukes or chemical warfare, even though it is forbidden by the world community. He's used them. He's partners with China. He's friendly with Turkey, more so than with us. They have a business arrangement for gas and oil. As Turkey is upset with us for numerous reasons. And so, in a sense, Putin does not have to worry about Turkey being a problem and interfering south of the Black Sea. Putin has demonstrated his control over our internet service with shutdowns, hacks, viruses, and ransomware. China as well. He's friends with China. They just signed a partnership agreement with each other that if war breaks out, China will support Putin. Putin has demonstrated since 2015 that he has full control over our power grids. We never did find out what was the cause of, it's 2 weeks ago now, because it's a new week. On Monday, it was my power grid, and on Friday, it was everywhere else in Utah. Our nuclear facilities are run by computers with the internet. He has control over those. And I've let you know, as it was already known way back in the Reagan era, that there were Russian sleeper cells throughout the United States. The FX, I guess it was, show Americans was about Russian sleeper cell family in the United States, and showed what they were doing during the Reagan years. I've done the videos where I have come into contact with several different Russian operatives at my local grocery store, on the one trip, the 4-hour trip I was forced to take that became worthless, and just the other night. I didn't tell you about that one, but yep, Russian accent is distinguishable, let alone the language being spoken. And so they have sleeper cells in Utah as well as the rest of the United States. So this is what we know going in before the war begins. We know that once war breaks out, Russia is the major supplier of gas and oil to Europe, and that will be instantly cut off. Europe will immediately go into a financial crisis and a gas and oil crisis. The stock markets will crash, not just in Europe, but all around the world, even here in the United States, as companies will be selling their unfriendly war stocks so that they can then buy up friendly war stocks. Despite Putin's unknown wealth, the war will be expensive. And so a long game would not be financially prudent. Putin will want a short and sweet war, unless he can get everybody around the world there. Because again, remember, he has no problem using nukes and chemical weapons. Now here's some previous strategies from The Art of War, from the show Americans. As we know that he does not like America. He blames the United States and Mitt Romney for attempting to rig the 2012 election in Russia. Mitt Romney was running for president that year. And so, if he's going to start a war, what he will know he needs to do is punish America. He has to weaken America. Just as war will instantly weaken all of Europe. And so just a stock market crash does not affect our economy. The companies will, in return, punish us, but Putin won't do it. Putin will need to do what our government had told us and potentially be involved in a cyber attack on us to shut down our internet or to cause disruption of our media. If you're familiar with China, in conquering Hong Kong, they disbanded all of the news in Hong Kong. And so now it's only China news all day, every day. He will need to destroy our press, silence them in some form or fashion. And as he has control over the internet, that will be easy to do. He'll have his guys take down our internet service. Apparently there's an American who has been toying with North Korea, shutting down their internet service every now and then, just for fun. And so don't be surprised if that, at a minimum, is done. But they have sleeper cells. They have control of the power grids, shutting off our power, not just our internet, causing a fire sale. If you're familiar with that, everything must go. And in order to do that, he will need to have Americans distracted at home. so that they're not focused on the daily reports about the war in Ukraine. That's where the sleeper cells come in. America as a whole has not experienced the wartime daily living in third world countries. Even though we have to lock our doors, even when we're home, we do not know of the types of threats that other countries face. The fear, the threats, just leaving their apartment, going to school, going to church. He will want to punish America to have some kind of war break out from an unknown source. Because remember, the Russians are sleeper cells. They've been posing as Americans. And so, wouldn't surprise me if the sleeper cells were activated to set off explosions and violence in certain key places to put fear in America and in Americans. Not knowing who we can trust, being afraid to leave our homes. And so when you have all of this against us as war breaks out in Ukraine, it wouldn't surprise me at all as if he were to take a singled out state and utterly destroy it as an example to the rest of America before commencing the sleeper cell attacks and the cyber attacks, etc. So that all America knows Putin has the upper hand. And so again, which state does Putin already have animosity towards? He blames Mitt Romney. When you deal with the devil, you better expect that the devil will betray you at some point in time. For the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to pay Russia to set up this whole scenario that is currently taking place, to betray America with the deal made so that they can restore the kingdom of Deseret. Putin doesn't trust anybody. He only makes deals that work in his advantage. He will not be true to his deal. He will betray you and find excuse to do so. So don't be surprised if Utah gets targeted by Putin for complete destruction to set an example for America. And the rest of America will just say, oh yeah, Mormons, so what, good riddance. So much for support from your fellow Christians, as you desperately wanted to be Christian, betraying Joseph Smith. This is the potential threat we face that is far beyond just war in some other country on the other side of the world, that we don't have to worry about, like we didn't have to worry about the invasion in Iraq or in Iran. Well, not quite in Iran, sort of, or Afghanistan. Libya, we did some stuff in there, some other stuff, but those weren't on our outside of our front yards. Now, I know many people want to cancel culture Mel Gibson for his drunken speeding ticket, traffic violation, in which he exposed his racist tendencies. But the movie The Patriot, about our Revolutionary War, is one that you should keep in mind. War was in our country to establish authoritarian government, to destroy constitutional government. The war was on our soil. It was in our backyards. It was in our front yards. Every American needed to be called to action, whether you wanted to or not. So, as much as Putin will patiently wait it out and do it whenever he wants to, despite our government telling us it could be any day now, just remember, it's going to be worse than the news and our government is warning you of. And so, in case you're wondering if it's scriptural, because you haven't been watching my videos, Joseph Smith gave a parable in section 101. And I know the manual makes you believe that you're the servant, not the prophets, and so you're to blame if you're not loyal to the church. But this has to do with the redemption of Zion, in verse 43. So everything was set in order, built, foundations were laid, but then, over time, the servants got lazy. They were greedy, wanting to give the money to the exchangers, verse 49, rather than protect the Mormons or the olive trees. And so in verse 51, now behold, that's 52. And the enemy came by night. It's a 9 hours difference. So it's during the daytime. It would be 9 a.m. over in Russia or Ukraine. If an attack were to be made, it would be midnight here. Broke down the hedge. The servants of the nobleman arose and were affrighted and fled. The enemy destroyed their works and broke down the olive trees. And that does indeed look like the plausible scenario that Putin would use at the commencement of war. Because you need to divide the attention of the leaders of your enemy. And so to have Utah destroyed and in chaos would result in Biden being split between the war in Ukraine and the desperate need for help in Utah, which then will get worse as the rest of the nation descends into chaos in the streets. Whereas Putin can just focus on causing damage. So this is all out of my hands. But this is a wartime strategy that we already know Putin has been setting in motion, is prepared for.